Guys, I know.
The era of hands is over. The era of feet has just begun. Young Midoriya has cast aside the shackles of his admiration for All Might and become a unique fighter all his own. He's fighting like the little bunny we all know he is on the inside. I read the same comments over and over and over and over, and even though I hate to admit it, you are all right. But that doesn't make my last video wrong. If anything, this immediate shift from a focus on hands to a focus on legs exposes the unique properties of My Hero Academia to embrace change. What other show, let alone other shonen, would spend 2.5 seasons and 50 plus episodes developing a character with unique fighting and animation styles, then just say screw it and go in a completely opposite direction in order to fit the symbolism established just a few episodes prior? After my 8-month anime binge, I can say I would have expected Midoriya to follow along in the path of any other normal anime hero, taking the most insane risks imaginable and putting himself in danger over and over in order to live up to the title Symbol of Peace. Overcoming all odds with a smile on his face. That's the Midoriya we had come to expect, was it not? Would his ticking time bombs for arms not just be another roadblock to get through on his path to becoming the world's greatest hero? Well, his shoot style says no, and my god, is this not incredible to me. Very few times have I seen such a distinct willingness to change in my shows, and even fewer times have I seen it work so seamlessly. As seen in episode 54, the change was made for both logical and symbolic reasons. Logically, we have a hero who needs to make himself last. After the complete retirement of All Might, Midoriya knows that he needs to fill the shoes his idol is leaving behind for him. Fighting the greatest coalition of villains the world is yet to see is not something that can be achieved in a single contained fight. If the 8-generation-long battle between All for One and One for All is anything to go by, the My Hero Academia universe is not shy to drawn-out disputes, and Midoriya recognized this. By shifting the major brunt of his fighting force onto his legs, Midoriya believes he will be able to reach the greatest heights and maintain order in a world rife with chaos. Symbolically, Midoriya recognizes his past failures. While I may not agree completely with his assessment of the situation, he believed that him breaking his arms indirectly led to All Might retiring completely. He believes that if he were able to use his legs in the same way as his arms, he could have saved Bakugo from Dabi, making the subsequent fight with the League of Villains and All for One unnecessary. If only he could have been a little bit faster, a little bit safer, and a little bit more well-rounded. His development of shoot style is multifaceted, but that's not entirely what I want to talk about. The most important thing about shoot style, in my eyes, is how much of a departure it is from Midoriya's previous style and old approach to fighting. He's making such a dramatic change in order to more easily and frequently smile in the face of adversity, and the results of this change are already showing. While the switch itself is symbolic, it is also representative of My Hero Academia as a whole. The show is a shonen, first and foremost, but one willing to change established tropes in order to be the greatest it can possibly be. Therefore, My Hero Academia incorporates the idea of characters changing rather than just growing or evolving, to craft a more engaging and meaningful story than similar shows in the genre. What I do here is make a claim, then I back it up with a hefty amount of evidence. I'm no Matt Pat, I don't fill a 13-minute video with 2 minutes of evidence and 11 minutes of jokes. Here, I go hard on analysis, so please stick with me while I step away from discussing only My Hero Academia to more accurately explain why this sort of story writing tactic is so unique. A comparison to another shonen is necessary, so I feel it necessary to bring up Naruto. An extremely polarizing show, yes, but one of my favorites? I'm honestly a slut for this genre, so yeah, it kinda is. Naruto is a show about growth, first and foremost. The goal of the main character is to stockpile power in order to reach higher and higher heights, hoping to one day become the most powerful ninja in his village. While suspiciously similar to the base plot of My Hero Academia, characters in Naruto only care about obtaining power and beating the odds in order to win their respective situations. There's no thought given to what becoming Hokage would actually mean, or what risks would be too much for each character to take. Instead, it's just train, 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 fight, 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 win, 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 achieve your dreams. I can't blame the show, honestly, because I can't imagine Kishimoto thinking the series would ever drag on for as long as it did, or really even have a formal ending. But what we have is what was made, and I feel apt to look at it as it is. I should note that I'm only talking about characters introduced as good guys, because Naruto's constant, unyielding use of talk no jutsu means every single villain of the series aside from 2 changed their minds about being evil at the very end of their lives, and that's just dumb. There are too many examples of growth for the sake of growth in Naruto for me to even count, so I'll just bring up a few key ones. Jiraiya was much the same person through his entire life. Pervy, yeah, but a true fighter through and through. From his younger years all the way through to his death, he refused to back down from any challenge, hoping to keep peace in the world as well as he possibly could. Turning down the position of Hokage when offered to him indicates his reluctance to change from his old ways, and his death in combat solidified that piece of his character. Someone who could accept a benched role as a teacher of the next generation would not have sought to do something like this all on their own, meaning Jiraiya never truly changed from his old ways to fit what was needed of him. Sasuke only cared about growing strong enough to defeat Itachi, so he followed Orochimaru to stockpile power the fastest way possible. Once he defeated his brother, he wanted to grow even more powerful to destroy Konoha, so he joined the Akatsuki, the most powerful villain organization the world had ever seen. Once he realized he wanted to keep the village safe, he wanted to get more power to defeat Naruto and enforce his will upon the people of the Hidden Leaf. Never once did he think to change his motivations or change his fighting tactics, instead choosing to compound everything on top of each other, leading to the most stagnant character in the show. You could see this not only through his motivations, but also through his fighting styles, as he learned Chidori before episode 50 of the original series, and evolved it into Lightning Blade and other lightning-style jutsus that he used all the way up through his final devastating fight with Naruto. Nothing with him really changed, it all just kind of evolved. Most obviously, Naruto just wanted to be Hokage. There wasn't anything extraordinary about his dream to begin, because it was always possible for him. Regardless of how inept at jutsu he was at a young age, his inherent abilities, Asura Otsutsuki, meant that all he would ever need to do was train and grow in order to become the world's most powerful ninja. Never once did he come across an issue so monumental that he would need to overhaul something about himself or his fighting style in order to achieve victory. The closest thing I can think of is his use of wind-style Rasen Shuriken, where he spent a good amount of time developing a jutsu that Tsunade believed would best be classified as forbidden. After using it once against Kakuzu, he was ordered to never use it again because of the immense risk inherited to the user, possibly tearing through all the cells in his arm. So, did Naruto scrap the jutsu and develop something else? Reluctantly, but intelligently, deciding that his own health was more important than a quick path to power? No, he just threw the thing, meaning he practiced the ability enough to develop it in this way, ignoring the risks and facing zero repercussions. Similar representations of his refusal to change in the show were seen in the constant usage success of Talk no Jutsu, his development of zero plan to capture Sasuke after the first one failed, just the idea of six-path sage mode in general. It's all just growth with nothing new ever truly added. What this sort of writing achieved was absolutely flabbergasting fight scenes. There's a reason people think the Kakashi and Obito fight made the entire 4th Ninja War worth the wait, and call the Pain fight the greatest arc in Naruto history. With all this power constantly being stockpiled, episode after episode, arc after arc, you best believe the fight scenes resulting from this compounding evolution are some of the most gripping of all time. Now, if you're a connoisseur of My Hero Academia content, you've likely come across this video by Giguk, describing how he thinks My Hero Academia fights are actually kind of boring. While some of the points he made are honestly done to pad the video, I will say that I agree with his overall message. Fight scenes aren't a payoff like they would be in Naruto. They're a storytelling device crafted to engage viewers because of the implications of the engagement, rather than the scope of the fights themselves. As such, this flows into why I think change is so important to the uniqueness of My Hero Academia. For all the examples of growth for the sake of growth in Naruto, I assert there is a comparable number of examples of change for the sake of good storytelling in My Hero Academia. I say comparable because comparing a 55-episode anime to a 730-plus episode one is hard to do one-to-one, honestly. All Might had changed in very minute ways leading up to his fight with All For One, with the last, very obvious change happening following the victory. He began the show in a somewhat benched position, hesitant to fight crime due to the timer on his powers. Symbolic of the degradation of society that had led to the undercover rise of Shigaraki, All Might fighting back against evil in only brief and self-destructive moments showed how close evil was to being able to destroy the peace he meant to maintain. Although he was willing to put himself on the line to fight evil and save lives every single one of those times, what he feared most was the death of the symbol of peace, and his reluctance to show his true form to anybody is indicative of that. However, when evil was at its strongest, he changed his stance on heroes altogether. Instead of putting the weight of peace solely on his own back, he sought to build up the heroic culture and establish a strong heroic task force, helping to bring all of the top heroes together in a show of strength. He no longer wished to be the only hero capable of fighting back evil and making people feel safe, and letting his flame burn out meant he fully believed the world was safe without him. With the symbol of peace dead, he changed position to a fully support-oriented role, becoming the teacher Midoriya and other students needed from him. Todoroki's whole plotline in the tournament arc is one that would not be out of place in another, less critically acclaimed show. A boy rejects his immense reserves of power due to its origin until he comes face to face with someone who makes him realize how to wield it for himself, and that it is for him alone to utilize. If the arc had ended with him using his fire against Bakugo and easily winning first place, you wouldn't have heard me complaining. That would have made a perfectly serviceable plot thread. However, his hesitance to ignite after his initial flare against Midoriya indicated that Todoroki's story was not over. Instead of doubling down on his hatred of his father and using his anger to allow him to power up, he changed his opinion on heroism altogether. Shadowing his father in the internship arc meant he was able to reject his father while still taking the objective best path to becoming a pro hero. Using the power with very little hesitation against Stain showed how, as a future hero, he would not hold back in order to save a life. Todoroki grew up, yeah, but in order to do so, he had to undergo a massive change in mentality. So much so that the core reasoning for him to become a stronger hero was altered in the process. Midoriya is an oddity in main characters. Obviously, he had the never back down, give it your all disposition that got All Might's attention in the first place. But how long did that really last? After obtaining the greatest power possible from the world's #1 hero, you would think that this attitude would only go stronger alongside him. Instead, however, this changed. Whereas Midoriya would leap in to save anyone without a second thought in the beginning of the series, he began to take a more objective outlook on similar situations later on. Breaking 3 limbs to save Uraraka, double breaking his arms to prove a point to Todoroki, these are things that Midoriya would no longer think of doing. Grabbing Bakugo during the final exams and jumping to safety, and saving Bakugo from the firm grasp of All for One. Now those are things that fit his current style. He even admitted himself that he should have never broken his arms as badly as he did to save Koda. Looking back, he would have taken any other route to save the young boy, but at the time he saw no other way. This change in attitude represents him growing up, yes, but it more accurately represents a change from the norm of shonen protagonists and from his past self. In order to adhere to the shifted ideology, he first developed full cowling. Willingly using only 5% of his power would not be something that old Midoriya would think about doing in tough situations, as he would have wanted to give himself the greatest chance of victory. However, as he came to recognize his importance to All Might and his importance to peace, this modified style granted him longevity. Shoot style is the second stage of this change, even more so representing the minimal risks that new Midoriya is willing to take. Not only does he wish to make his time as the new symbol of peace as long as possible, he is also beginning to change his stance on fighting altogether. In the simplest terms, arms are for fighting, legs are for running. A departure from his past and a departure from All Might, Midoriya is in the midst of changing in ways his teacher would have never imagined. Just as how 6 paths, Ultra Big Ball, Rasen Shuriken epitomizes Naruto, Shoot Style does the same for My Hero Academia. One stems from growth and evolution, the other stems from change and innovation. One is the result of constant, uncontested compounding of power in order to create a technique so strong that it could never foreseeably lose. The other is a result of situational assessment, logical progression, and a desire to reach full potential in the most doable way possible. One leads to some of the worst power creep in the medium, but creates fights that are each more incredible than the preceding one. The other leads to some less than stellar fights, but molds the plot so that everything seamlessly reinforces the core ideals of each character. Both have merit, but I know which one I prefer. Reaching maximum potential in My Hero Academia is therefore a much more intricate task. Watching Midoriya develop his abilities prior to the switch in styles was already incredible, so seeing him approach every situation with a new state of mind and a new style, but with the same beaming smile, will undoubtedly one-up everything prior. Not because his power is reaching unbelievable levels, but because as a character and as a hero, Deku, in his own unique way, is always willing to go